College football win totals for the 2018 season are out, and it's time to place your bets. Las Vegas South Point Casino released those totals on 129 of 130 college football teams over the weekend. That list starts with traditional powers such as Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. Sporting News picks to make the 2018 college football playoff. More, SN Post Spring, way too early. Top 25 Sporting News broke down those totals with picks from each Power 5 conference. We took a look at the top, a team to take over, a team to take under, and a risky proposition. Here's a closer look. SEC at the top, Clemson, 11. The Tigers have lost 2 regular season games the last 3 years. The toughest road tests are against programs in transition at Texas A. State, 7. If NC State can beat West Virginia at home on September 15, there's a good chance the Wolfpack will be 6-0 heading into a trip to Clemson on October 20. We like this for at least a push with a good shot at 8 wins. Under, Florida State, 7.5. This is a program in transition, and the home opener against Virginia Tech will go a long way in making that 9-win season. The Seminoles travel to Louisville, Miami, NC State, and Notre Dame. That doesn't even include home games against Clemson and Florida. Risky business, Pitt, 5.5. This seems like a steal. The Panthers should win 6 games, but the non-conference schedule includes Penn State and a trip to UCF. A road trip to Notre Dame also is in the works. The Panthers are 8-8 in ACC play the last 2 seasons. You're counting on them to get 4 conference victories, and that's doable with the crossover games against Syracuse and Wake Forest. More, top 25 quarterbacks for 2018 Big Ten at the top, Ohio State, 10.5. The Buckeyes have lost just 8 games in Urban Meyer's 6 seasons with the program, and last season was the first year with multiple regular season losses. A road trip to Jerry World to take on TCU and the same old Big Ten East challenges won't be easy, but we think the Buckeyes get to 11-1 as usual. Over, Purdue, 6. This is a lock if the Boilermakers win the opener against Northwestern. Purdue plays its first 4 games at home and could use a split against Missouri and Boston College before a Big Ten schedule that includes crossover games against Michigan State and Ohio State. Jeff Brom gets the Boilermakers back to a bowl game. Make this play now. Under, Penn State, 9.5. It's nothing against Penn State. They could prove this wrong, but of the 4 Big Ten East powerhouses this is the most uncomfortable line. A primetime trip to Pitt and crossover games against Iowa and Wisconsin make it that much more difficult. We'll lean toward the under. Risky business, Michigan, 9. Michigan's schedule is ridiculous. Road trips to Notre Dame, Michigan State, and Ohio State. Crossover games against Nebraska, Northwestern, and Wisconsin. It's not about Shea Patterson. The Wolverines need to be better collectively to move up the standings under Jim Harbaugh. We think they will, and the opener in South Bend will be a trendsetter for a 10-win season. More, top 25 running backs for 2018 Big 12 at the top, Oklahoma, 10. The Sooners have lost just 3 regular season Big 12 games the last 3 seasons, and they will be favored to win the conference again. So it comes down to whether you believe they will either lose 2 conference games or slip up at least once out of conference against UCLA, or Army. Of all the teams at the top, this is the one where we would even consider the under. Over, West Virginia, 7. Big non-conference games against Tennessee and NC State complicate this outlook, but we still think the Mountaineers at least get a split there and win 5 or 6 Big 12 games behind a high-powered offense led by Will Grier and All-American receiver David Sills. This seems like easy money, and that's what worries us. Under Kansas 3, the Jayhawks have only won 3 games the last 3 seasons, including one Big 12 game. If you give them one conference victory, they still must get 2 of 3 among Nicholls State, Central Michigan and Rutgers for a push. Risky business, Texas, 8.5, without looking. Texas at 7 seems like an easy bet, but they can't lose to Maryland or Tulsa before the big home matchup with USC. Texas has only one season with more than 6 wins in Big 12 play since the conference moved to a 9-game conference schedule in 2011. More, playoff contenders' biggest trap games. Pac-12 at the top, Washington, 10.5. The Huskies are the prohibitive Pac-12 favorite, but this means they have to win that opener against Auburn and avoid Pac-12 potholes on the road at Utah, UCLA, Oregon and Washington State. This feels like an under unless you believe the Huskies are an 11-win, college football playoff team. Over, UCLA, 5. Chip Kelly didn't come back to college football to lose 7 games, did he? We know the transition will have speed bumps all over the place, and a road trip to Oklahoma will provide that perspective. It might come down to beating either Utah or Oregon, and that visit to Autzen Stadium should be fun. We think Kelly gets to a bowl game. Under Arizona State, 5. Patience will be required with Herm Edwards, especially in September against Michigan State, San Diego State, and Washington. UTSA isn't a pushover, and a crossover trip to Oregon isn't easy either. The Sun Devils also travel to Tucson in the regular season finale. Risky business, Arizona, 7.5. Arizona can get to 8 wins if they take care of business the first 2 weeks against BYU and Houston, where Kevin Sumlin's coaching career took off. With Khalil Tate at quarterback, that's possible. They'll have to win one of the road games out of Utah, UCLA and Washington State to clinch it, but we'll stick with the Pac-12 sleeper for 8 wins. More, college football bowl, playoff projections. SEC at the top, Alabama, 11, Georgia, 10.5. There is a reasonable chance both teams could get to the SEC championship game in Atlanta with undefeated records. We think both teams get there with, at minimum, 11-1 records, especially the Crimson Tide. Double down on the over here and cash in. Over, South Carolina, 7. This might be the easiest call on the board. We expect the Gamecocks to be around 6 wins when they hit the bye week on October 20. Even if South Carolina gets swept by Tennessee, Florida and Clemson on the back half, and they won't, it's still an 8-win team. Get this before it goes up. Under, Auburn, 9. Work backward here. Do you think the Tigers will win at Alabama and Georgia in November? Can they get through October without slipping up against Mississippi State or Tennessee? What about that September matchup against LSU? And you can't dismiss that opener against Washington in Atlanta. Risky business, LSU, 7. Joe Burrow makes a difference at quarterback for the Tigers, but the schedule is brutal, featuring Miami and Auburn in September, a 4-week stretch against Florida, Georgia, Mississippi State and Alabama, and road trips to Arkansas and Texas A. It's almost safer to take the under.